Assalamu alaikum. Hi guys, this is Shahadat Hussain, and today I'm going to explain to you why I stopped supporting this organization or charity organization called the Islamic Relief UK. I think what they're doing is completely un-Islamic. I mean, they're not doing things in an Islamic way, and having a name, having Islam, the Islamic word in their brand name, and then doing things in completely a wrong way or un-Islamic way is hypocritical to me. So I stopped supporting them, and today I'm going to show you why. I mean, one of the reasons why I've done that. In my previous video, I did go through all the reasons, like as a summary, but today I'll discuss one particular blog post that this website has published, and I'll try to show you how they are trying to spread misinformation and false information, falsehood really, and how they're not ready to change. They're not willing to be corrected when they make a mistake. So let's dive into it. It's going to be a little bit long a video because there are a few things I need to talk about. I'll try to make it as brief as possible, of course, but please bear with me. So the article, the blog post that I'm talking about is called, or the headline of the blog post is Meat versus Vegetarian Consumption, Debunking the 6 Most Common Myths. So this is an article written by Sister Maria Zafar. I have nothing against her as a person. Personally, we don't know each other, and I have no enmity towards her. The reason I'm having to make this review and criticize her work is because I think she herself is confused, and she is spreading this confusion among others, which obviously needs to be stopped. Right before getting into the details, let me tell you that I did try to contact Sister Maria Zafar and Islamic Relief UK before making these videos. I requested them to take down all these blogs with lots of false information, and they denied to do it, and they denied to be corrected, even though the information that they're spreading is completely full of false information. And especially as Muslims, this is really problematic because they are talking about something that Allah Rabbul Alamin in the Quran and our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in his life showed us to be something that is doable, and they are trying to oppose that idea and still claiming themselves to be Muslims. I don't understand how that works, but there you go. So Sister Maria Zafar, she is, I'll show you her LinkedIn profile. She is educated, she has done a BA in politics from Queen Mary University of London, and in A levels she had psychology, government and politics, English literature, etc. Now, she obviously is not trained. From the list of qualifications she has, she is not trained as a nutritionist or an environmental scientist or a climate science expert. But the argument that she brought in this little blog post basically involves those disciplines, and I mean, if you don't have training, if you don't know exactly what you are talking about, then obviously you can end up with the wrong conclusion very easily. So so yeah, that's exactly what happened, I think, in this particular blog post. So with that cleared, that this is the person I'm talking about, and I've shown you her qualifications and things. Let's get into the article itself, the blog post itself. So she's talking about some myths, and 6 common myths she thinks, and she's trying to debunk them. Excuse me, in this blog post. The first myth is protein is only found in meat. Now, based on my understanding of what a myth is, A myth is a false information that most people believe, or a lot of people believe, which I found weird in this particular claim is because I don't think there is many people who believe that protein is only available in meat. Um, so I don't understand why talk about something that a lot of people do not consider to be true, even though the statement is false. Protein is only found in meat. If we talk about the statement itself, yes, it is completely false. Protein can be found in other sources. There are plant sources of protein as well, like the in this photograph, the photo that she has used in this blog post. It shows some nuts and seeds. Well, in this particular case, nuts only, and these nuts are all proteins. They contain proteins. The other thing you need to remember is they can contain other things as well. Now, that's where it becomes complicated. Even though these seeds and nuts, they contain protein, but that's not the only thing they contain. They contain other things as well. Most of these nuts contain quite a bit of carbohydrate. The carbohydrate, that means once it is digested, it becomes sugar in your, it gets added to your blood as sugar, which raises blood sugar level, which causes insulin to go up, and people with type 2 diabetes, that's not a good thing for them. Um, so, but then if we talk about the protein itself, even though you can get protein from plant sources, not only these nuts, you can get protein from legumes, you can get proteins from like kale, leafy greens as well, in some cases. But there's a big but, and the but is the quality of protein that you get from plant sources is not comparable to the quality of protein you get from the animal sources. Protein from eggs and red meat and chickens and fish, all these things, they are, in terms of quality, far, far better. So there are a few things to consider when you take the quality of protein into consideration. One is, do they have all the essential amino acids that a human body needs? The plant protein sources usually don't have them, or most of the plant sources don't have them, whereas if you get it from the animal source, you can rest assured that whatever you eat, whether it's egg or red meat or chicken or fish, you will get all the essential amino acids that your body requires every day. So that's one benefit. The second thing you need to take into consideration is protein do not digest in the same way in our stomach. If the protein source is different, the plant proteins are, it's very difficult for human beings to digest them and absorb them. And if it is not digested properly and absorbed, what good is it? Because it's just going to go out through the other side. So that is not really beneficial. So that's the second problem: digestibility and absorbability. And there is a chart that actually compares the different kind of proteins called DIAAS, Delta, Indigo, Alpha, Alpha, Sierra. So if you look that up in Google, you'll come or you'll get to see the chart, and you will see that plant proteins are far, far better compared to sorry, I said the other wrong way around. Animal proteins are far, far better than plant proteins. So that's the other problem. The next issue is from all plant food, they contain toxins. They contain toxins that are not good for human beings, like these nuts and some legumes contain lectin. For example, you have heard about gluten that is found in wheat. So if you make bread from wheat, that contains gluten, and gluten can cause digestive problems, issues in many people. And those people are called, the disease is called celiac disease, where they cannot digest, or they cannot stand tolerate the gluten from wheat. Now, gluten is a kind of lectin, and the other plant foods, have lectins in other forms. And many of these things, lectins, are actually quite dangerous for our gut health. They cause, like the lectins from legumes, cause leaky gut, and unless cooked in a really specific way. If you don't cook it in a specific way to kind of like break down the lectin molecules, then if you eat them, that is going to give you a bit of problem, and it can actually cause long-term chronic problems for people who stick to plant food all the time. So that's the other problem. The next problem is anti-nutrients, like these nuts, the lovely nuts that we see in front of us here. They contain something called phytic acid, and there are other kind of anti-nutrients in other plant foods, and the job of this anti-nutrient is to block the absorbability of nutrients from food in human body. So, or any other animal body even. So if you eat nuts, and if you eat, say, nuts mixed with something else like meat, red meat, what will happen is the phytic acid that is present in these nuts, that will go and try to bind with all the minerals that are coming from the red meat, which is really good and we really need them. But this phytic acid will go and bind with them. That means like kind of like bite into each other, and the result will be a molecule that is too big for it to be absorbed in our body. So that way you will not be able to absorb the goodness that you were supposed to get from the meat, because you just ate it with nuts. So not only nuts, there are other foods that have got different kind of anti-nutrients. There was this experiment where they tested with, I mean, you can, if you want, I can share the link of the experiment, the research paper with you, where they used seafood to check how much zinc the seafood has and how much of that gets absorbed, and only seafood was absorbed really well. Then they had seafood with some other plant food, and the absorbability, or after 2 hours, in the level of zinc in the blood was kind of like half. And then they had the seafood, the same amount of seafood in the same people, with corn mixed with them, and the output was completely, there was nothing virtually in the blood. There was no zinc in the blood at all, kind of. So plant food have got these problems, and because of all these issues, the quality of them goes quite a bit down. And again, the other problem is these plant protein sources. They've got protein, but they've got other things as well. And Professor Dr. Ben Bickman, he explained that he used peas as an example. He said, okay, in each peas there is a bit of protein, and there are other things. Now, the amount of protein there is very small. So to get the amount of protein you need on a daily basis, what you have to do is you have to have 1,000 peas or more. And each one will give you a little bit of protein, of course, but it will also give you lots and lots of other things. And many of those other things are not really good for human beings. Say, for example, carbohydrate. That's something we always get from, or mostly we get from plant sources. And carbohydrate, when consumed too much, is a disaster for human health. So, considering all these things, even though you can get protein from plant sources, that's not ideal, and we shouldn't go for that. We should really try to stick to meat, because meat is going to give us the proteins that we need, and the quality of the protein will be really good, and it will be absorbed really well, and the molecules from the plants will be our biochemistry can actually use them easily without spending a lot of energy or changing them too much. So considering all these, protein is found in plant food, but that is not the same quality protein as protein found in meat. So that's the first myth. Let's go to the next one. Second, vegetarian food lacks versatility. This I don't understand where she get that as a um, myth from, because everybody knows. I mean, there are so many vegetables all around, and if you prepare food using all these vegetables and the legumes and all these things, you can come up with so many different recipes. And some of the vegetarian dishes are really, 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 really tasty. I mean, I'm a omnivore, so I eat everything. I eat meat and I eat vegetables. So I have tested the vegetarian food, and some of the dishes I really love. But if you consider or if you think about your health, it'll be absolutely crazy for you to just choose a completely vegetarian or a vegan lifestyle. There are people who do not have a choice. I mean, their religious belief prohibits eating meat, like the Seventh Day Adventist Church. They think eating meat is a sin. So for them, the only option is vegetables, and they have to live with that. They have to make sure they get the protein that they need, and the other things that they need from the plant sources, and they have to come up with different or new ways of cooking them so that they're bioavailable and things like those. And still, you will be still short in iron and vitamin B12 and things like those, and you have to supplement them from outside. So unless you are forced to avoid animal source food because of your religious views, I don't understand why you should go for a vegetarian lifestyle or a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle for that matter. And Professor Dr. Ben Beckman has exactly the same opinion about it, and he simply says it's not a complete diet for human beings. We know that it is there is no argument about it that if you stick to a completely vegan diet, you will become vitamin B12 deficient unless you supplement it from outside from other sources. So this is something that must be taken into consideration. And for a normal person in the sense that person who is not restricted by their religious faith to eat plant only, there is no reason for them to become vegetarian. So the next myth that she talks about is meat is halal, so should be a priority. I don't understand why that is a myth. I mean, meat is halal and it should be a priority because this is more like a religious Islamic. She is basically using the Islamic argument here, a logic. Or this argument originates from the religion of Islam. Now, excuse me. So, if you look at the life of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what you see is um, he used to have meat in celebrations. So every time there was some sort of celebration, goat will be slaughtered and the meat will be cooked, and all the people who are taking part in that celebration will enjoy meat. So whenever there was something we talked about, or they in a environment where you need good food, um, he used to prioritize meat. He didn't go and avoid meat and give dates or something like that to everybody. So, looking at that principle, meat should be a priority. And but if we forget about the religious viewpoint, if we talk about the science, I think I've given you enough information to prioritize meat anyway, even if it was not religiously, even if we couldn't see our prophet to consume meat like that, From the scientific enterprise, we see that meat is a far better nutrition source for human beings. So it is halal and it should be a priority. There is nothing mythical about it. So, and this photo I think is quite interesting. If you stick to the burger patty in the middle, which is I assume made from meat, and the cheese, and get rid of the greens and the bread from both sides, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Um, so next myth is eating meat doesn't affect the climate change. Uh, I think what she's trying to say here is meat consumption will affect the climate change negatively, and she believes that to be true. So she is trying to say that people who believe that eating meat doesn't affect the climate change, they are believing a myth. Um, well, the funny thing is, um, eating meat can actually impact the climate change in a positive way. And you may be surprised to hear that, but that's the truth. The problem with our current ruminant agriculture or animal agriculture practice is what is responsible for the negative climate change impact, because we are doing the agriculture in a wrong method, and because of that we are adding more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere by doing the animal agriculture. And but there is a better way already, and lots of ranchers and farmers around the globe are already following that better way. Alan Savory, if you want to know more about it, just search the word Alan Savory in YouTube or Google, and you will come across some information. He promoted this idea of regenerative agriculture, where he uses the ruminant animals to actually help the environment become green again and soak up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And now they've got projects in Zimbabwe, they've got projects in the US, and following their principles, even in a place like Saudi Arabia, where it's a desert, they have converted places into a green space, and the ruminant animals are helping with that. In If I quickly go through that idea, you see the problem is when we do agriculture like plant agriculture, we are tilling the land. We are tilling the land basically means we are turning the soil over, and so everything that was under the ground, including the carbon trapped under the ground, they gets exposed, and so they get sunlight, and the sunlight basically deteriorates them and breaks them down into carbon dioxide gradually. So doing that, you are adding more carbon into the atmosphere. Then this other thing you need to consider is the amount of lives that are getting killed. I mean, a tiller, when we till land, all the insects that are living under the ground, the insect, the worms, and all these lives, they get absolutely destroyed. So you actually kill thousands and thousands. If we talk about the micro biome diversity of the soil, when you turn them around like that, tilling, what happens is a lot of them gets destroyed. And then if you plant your seeds for new plants to grow, what happens? The birds, they come and try to steal the seeds. So you have to kill the birds. You have to shoot the birds so that they don't steal your seeds. Okay. And then the next thing is you get the plants. You need to spray and pesticides, herbicides, because otherwise the insects are going to kill the plant. So that is a problem. And the tilling takes a lot of fossil fuel, because the tillers, power tillers, are actually run by fossil fuel, and it requires a huge amount of fossil fuel, which comes from underground and goes into this atmosphere. And I'll talk about it a little bit more a bit later. So what happens is it was trapped underground for thousands of years, millions of years, and now we are taking it out and burning it and putting it in the atmosphere. So that's a problem. But going back to the problem that our plant agriculture causes. So we kill the insects with herbicide and pesticide, and these herbicide and pesticides are again molecules taken from plants, and then what they do is they stay in the environment for a long, long time, and then they kill the fishes in the river because once it rains, the herbicide and the pesticide get washed down to the water sources, and you kill the fishes. And then once your what do you call the agricultural field is full of all the crops, all the grains, you get rodents like mice. They come and try to steal those. So now you need to again have ways to kill them. And then finally, when you harvest, the problem is suddenly you have taken out all the food source for all these rodents that were there, and they were thriving on uh, the seeds that you were growing, and now they have got no food at all. So what happens? They die. A huge number of them will die, and so this whole thing is kind of like a mess. Whereas if we do animal agriculture, what happens is, first, if we think about the greenhouse gas side, see the cows. Let's talk about cows. Cows eat grass. The grass took the carbon from the atmosphere and became grass, and the cow went and ate the grass, and the grass gets digested in its tummy. We get a little bit of methane, greenhouse gas methane from that, and the cow burps that out and it goes into the atmosphere. But within 10 years, this methane actually gets converted to carbon dioxide again. So that increases the carbon dioxide amount a little bit. But the thing is, there are the cow actually defecates and urinates on the field that it's walking about. So it's eating grass and basically giving manure to that field. So the grass, getting this new source of nutrition, manure, they become stronger, better. Their roots actually go further down into the ground, and the deeper they go, the better quality soil it becomes. So if you think about it, you just don't have to do anything. Just get your cows, eat the grass, roam around in the piece of land, and then keep it moving. And what will happen is you will have more carbon trapped from the atmosphere by doing that. And that's exactly the idea of regenerative agricultural practices. And as I said, Alan Savory, a gentleman from Zimbabwe, he used this technique to change the look of his ranch in Zimbabwe. It was becoming a desert, and he changed it to a green space now with lots of water trapped in the ground, and there are lots of birds. Because there is a constant flow of water in the stream, there are fishes, and the biodiversity has come back. And people in Australia, in US, in Canada, I haven't seen any example of Canada, but there may be some in other parts in Africa, different parts of Africa. They are now using this technique basically to rejuvenate the soil, improve the soil quality, and bring the normal life back into the earth. And that's the way to actually look after the planet. So if you do the animal agriculture properly, in the appropriate way, we can actually save the world. So in summary, eating meat doesn't affect the climate change is a myth. But eating meat affects the climate change negatively is again another myth, because eating meat actually helps the planet to stay healthy if we do it right. It's us, human beings, who are the problem, not the cows. And this photograph is quite ironic, and she used this photo. Uh, Looking at this photo, you can see that it's like a barren, desertified kind of like a piece of land. And looking at looking at the photo, I can see that they produced what you call corn in this piece of land before, and the result is the ground is absolutely devoid of any water. It's not moist. It's hard and dry. That's exactly what happens if you stick to plant agriculture all the time, and that's why we should avoid it. That's why we shouldn't do it. uh, Even if we discard the number of lives that needs to be killed for agriculture like this, uh, the agriculture itself is a massive problem, because if we keep on destroying our topsoil like this, it's not too far in the future when we will not have any uh, nutrient dense food from the plant source at all, because it is already found that plant source foods, like 50 years ago, they used to have a lot more nutrients, and now they don't have those nutrients anymore in the same kind of like density, because the soil is messed up. We don't have the top quality soil anymore, and you can use fertilizer, but the chemical fertilizer is a massive problem, and production of chemical fertilizer uses the fossil fuel in their system, in their production procedure. So you are actually burning fuel that was trapped under the ground, and you spread it into the atmosphere, which is terrible. The other thing that causes damage to the environment is transportation. We use our cars and the airplanes, and they actually cause massive problem. Now, if you want to learn more about these topics, you can go to this professor's website. It's University of California, Davis. They have got a center called the Clear Center, and the gentleman the professor who actually looks after that part is Professor Dr. Frank Mitloner, and he has got some YouTube lectures, and he has got if you go to the Clear Center in UC Davis, there are tons of articles, blogs, posts written by him, and he collaborates with other scientists, top quality scientists in Oxford, UK, and others. So if you read their content, you will have a clear understanding of how this whole thing works. So that's the this myth, which yeah, yeah. I hope you understand which part of it is a myth now. Now the next myth is your workout will suffer, and there is no argument that your workout will suffer if you stick to a vegetarian diet. I mean, in this article, in the blog post, the sister Maria Zafar, she has written that all the vegetarian diet can increase muscular development, and many professional athletes have become vegetarian or vegan. These are not really arguments. What you have to do is you have to look at the science, and if you compare two people, one who eats vegetable only, or who is a vegetarian and he is working out and trying to build muscle, and the other one is a meat eater, he doesn't eat any vegetables at all. So one is a completely vegetarian, the other one is a carnivore. If you compare these two and then check the muscles or protein synthesis for muscle building and other things, you can probably come to a better yet comparison will be somebody trying to do the building their muscles in using vegetarian diet for a fixed amount of time, say for a year, and then go on a carnivore diet and do the same thing again for a year, and compare the results in a scientific way. Because of the reasons I've explained before, the digestibility of the protein sources from plants and other things, anti-nutrients and density of the nutrients in these sort of foods, there is no argument that sticking to a vegetarian diet is far worse than sticking to a meat only or meat and vegetarian, omnivore diet. So your workouts will actually suffer, and this is not a myth at all. Now the next myth is eating too much meat does no harm. Right. The This is a controversial one. This is a controversial one because we have some, or we had some report from WHO that suggested that meat is carcinogenic. And even though they published a report, and this was back in 2015, that's when they did a conference, or scientists got together in France and did a conference, and then they they published a report suggesting that meat eating is really, really bad, like as bad as smoking. But later on, some other scientists looked into their report, even though they were supposed to publish the full report within a couple of months, and it took a couple of years before they could publish the complete report. So it was around 2018 when they finally published the complete report. And looking at the report, people had a shock because the report, the methodology used to come to that conclusion was absolutely flawed, absolutely flawed, and people actually laughed at these top scientists. And it was pretty clear that because most of them were vegetarians, they just tried to prove their religion in that particular report. And I'll give you some material to information to about that actually. And in our sister's case, Sister Maria Zafar, I think she has made the same mistake. She, based on whatever reading she has done, but I think she should have done better. She has become a vegetarian. I'm not making it up. Let me show you. Let me show you. I'm not making it up. Can I show you now? Well, it's going to take a few seconds for me to find the particular article I'm talking about. I think, where is it? Eco-friendly Ramadan. I'm going to talk about that particular one later. I'll make another video about that. Where is it? When she has written quite a few articles, and it was one of the blog posts that was about some recipe. Come on, where is it? Not these ones. It was a recipe. Hold on with me for a few seconds, guys, or this is the last page I'll check. If I cannot find it now, I'll leave it, and I'll probably show you the article later. Going green, going veggie. Ah, that's the one. Found it. This is the one. This article, the blog post she has written, going green, going veggie. Melanzane alla parmigiana, whatever. I cannot pronounce it even. So here, in this part of the this blog post, she said, conscious about the negative impact that meat production has on the planet, I have cut meat from my diet. The thing is, eating meat contributes to climate change due to greenhouse gases emitted by livestock, which is completely flawed understanding. She has got a completely flawed understanding of this whole thing. As if you look at Professor Mitloner's clear sentence information, you will understand why. So, in an effort to do my bit to look after the world, I am now fully vegetarian. Fully vegetarian in a way means she is vegan. That means she doesn't eat anything other than vegetable or plant sourced stuff. or she can probably eat what do you call cheese as well. So okay, not vegan, fully vegetarian. So she has become vegetarian, and then she is basically trying to promote her religion, rather than sticking to the science, and rather than keeping her eyes open and mind open to new ideas. She is just giving us what she believes as facts, which is completely crazy, because those things are not facts really. Now, meat causes cancer. You must have heard about that. I'm going to give you, I'm going to take you to this website called, not the Diet Doctor. I want to go to the next one. Dietdoctor.com is a good website to check a few of these things out. But if you go to this other website called diagnosisdiet.com, this website is belongs to nutritional psychiatrist, Harvard trained psychiatrist name. Her name is what's her name? Georgia Eid, Dr. Georgia Eid, and she has written a detailed analysis of the WHO report that said that you will get cancer if you eat meat. So she's quite funny in her approach in terms of writing. So that's why she used the name like that, the heading like "Who says meat causes cancer?" And then she goes through the basically analyzes all the methods that were used in the to come up with that report, and she basically showed that the scientists actually did a terrible, absolutely terrible job. Even though they claim to be top-class scientists. And if you want more information about how this eating meat can actually help the planet, you can go to this other website called sacredcow.info. Sacredcow.info. They've got tons of blogs and videos and podcasts and infographics, and I'll basically take you through some of the infographics here quickly. And these infographics will give you a better understanding of the whole thing. I mean, you need to understand the big picture compared to just sticking to or run with one or two pieces of the puzzle. So if you want to know more about the impact of what you call the greenhouse gas emission and the climate change impact that the ruminant animals have, livestock have, you should go to this website and check them out. And Clear Center is the. Let me quickly show you the Clear Center's website as well. clear.ucdavis.edu is the place, and Greenhouse Gas Guru blog is the blog that Professor Frank Mitloehner is contributing to. So I think in the about you get to see him. There you go. That's Professor Mitloehner's photograph in here. And if you want to understand the climate change impact of animal agriculture, this is the gentleman you need to listen to, because he will give you a complete picture of exactly what happens and how we human beings are doing it wrong, and how if we do it right, we can actually use this ruminant agriculture to actually keep the planet going for years and years and years, and probably thousands of years in the future, and at the same time provide top quality nutrition for human beings. So anyway, with that, I think I'll close it today. So if you have any query, if you want any evidence of all the claims that I've made, please get in touch with me, leave a comment, and I'll try to provide you with the evidence so that you are not confused. One of the biggest problem this sort of articles make is because the website claims itself to be an Islamic one, and then they are campaigning against meat, and meat is halal. I have already seen questions from Muslims in different websites. The one particularly I'm talking about is in Islam QA website. There was this question that if eating meat is so bad, then why did Allah make eating meat halal? So you can hopefully you can see where the massive problem is. You are giving some writing a blog post based on some flawed science, flawed information. You are making a mistake, and then you are confusing others, and you are actually making some people so confused that their iman is getting affected by that, which is absolutely unacceptable. And that's one of the reasons why I think Islamic Relief should get rid of the Islamic word from their name, because if you don't follow the Islamic principles, and if you do not uphold the Islamic education, Islamic culture on top of everything else, why call yourself Islamic? Islamic Relief means Islamic idea should be prioritized, should be put on top of everything else, right? And I could understand if there was a legitimate reason to publish this article, but based on the information that I've already shared, I hope you can see that there is no such evidence. So confusing more Muslims, and this website being Islamic charity, Muslims are the primary consumers of this information, and Muslims are getting negatively affected, and that's exactly why I got in touch with them. I sent an email with a complaint, and I said, can you please take these articles down because you haven't done your research properly? So, and I'm happy to share the information you need to check before writing this or publishing these articles, and do that. And then if you still think you are legitimately right to publish these articles, go ahead and do that with the explanation of why you think that is. But they just were not ready to. The Islamic Relief UK charity was not open to that idea. I personally tried to contact Sister Maria Zafar and requested her to review the content, and I tried to get in touch with her in LinkedIn, but she was not bothered. She couldn't be bothered to speak to me, even though I'm clearly highlighting a massive mistake she's making. So anyway, with that, I'll probably end it today, and hope to see you in my next video, where I'll probably debunk one of the other blog posts that she has published, where she's again trying to make us or convert Muslims to vegetarians, which is a terrible idea. So hope to see you in my next video, and stay well in the meantime. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.